Ladies and gentlemen, may I have your attention, please?
Covering both sides of the big issues with the analysis you trust on News Radio 1040 WHO.
Meanwhile, it is the holiday music season, and one of the songs you may be hearing, I know I enjoy it, Hall & Oates' version of Jingle Bell Rock. I am sad to report to you that Daryl Hall is suing John Oates, and we're all wondering what the heck, in fact, is going on. And the guy to talk about what the heck is going on is the patent professor, John Rizvi. He's back on my Davison Family Dentistry Newsmaker line. John, always a pleasure to talk with you. Good morning.
Yeah, always great. Thank you.
So, John, I know the lawyers are trying to keep the details of this lawsuit secret, but we're learning a little bit more about it, and it really has to do with the evolving nature of who owns music. Am I right about that?
It does. The copyright law has certain defaults as far as ownership by when you have co-authors or two co-owners, and the default is that each is the assumption is that owns 50-50, and under copyright law, each owner has the right to do whatever they want with the entire portion. So they can license or sell, and then they have to account to their partner for a fair share of profits. Now, the problem is that this assumption can be overcome. This is a default that the law implies unless there's an agreement to the contrary. And it's incredibly common now to have specific agreements setting out who owns what. And that's the case here with Daryl Hall and John Oates, is that Daryl Hall claims there's a separate agreement that they have that was supposed to be confidential, and he's asked the court for a restraining order preventing John Oates from revealing that confidential arrangement that they have, and also asking the court to temporarily prevent any type of sale until the court determines the litigation, until they actually get to hear and present evidence on the agreement. So that's the restraining order is not the type that you typically hear about in like physical violence type situations. They're not. Daryl Hall is not concerned about that, but he doesn't want the rights sold before the court gets a chance to really evaluate this agreement between him and John Oates.
And we're probably, John, going to hear a lot of this, right? Because there's a lot of publicity these days about these older music artists. You know, they don't need the royalties, the ongoing royalties anymore. They're just gonna sell the music outright for one big price. Am I right about that?
It's 100%. That's happening. It's more and more common, and a big part of it is that the music that previously may not have been seen as being very valuable, especially because of how old it is, it's dated, it may not be current. However, with the growth of streaming music, the licensing opportunities for TV and movies, and in fact, even now video games, has massively increased the value of these assets to where, and that may be something else behind Daryl Hall and John Oates, the controversy and the litigation, is that Daryl sold his rights back in 2007 and has publicly come out in interviews like really regretting that decision because of how valuable that music has become from 2007 to now. And when he got wind of John Oates possibly selling additional rights, he's asking the court to for this restraining order preventing that sale. And who knows what the agreement between them is? It's a sealed agreement. It's confidential. But, there's some speculation that it might even be a right of first refusal or a right to purchase first. So perhaps Daryl is having second thoughts about selling his shares, and now that he's heard that John Oates wants to sell as well, he's like, hey, wait a minute, sell to me, because this gives him an opportunity to go back in. I mean, no one knows because it's a breach of contract, but the contract itself is confidential.
Absolutely. And that is John Rizvi, and something you hear about because this music's memorable. So it just does keep popping up in like those commercials you see during football games, and the artists are trying to figure out how they can make the most money off of like these fantastic songs that Hall & Oates wrote. John Rizvi is a registered and board certified patent attorney. I call him the patent professor. John, thanks for joining me on this topic today.